Hey everyone, welcome to Wandering Jews with Mijal and Noam. I'm Noam.
I'm Mijal.
And today we are coming to you with a special episode, not special, but an important episode where we're just having a conversation after last night's devastating anti-Semitic attack, which killed Yaron and Lashinsky and Sarah Milgram outside a Jewish museum in Washington, D.C., at an event that was put on by the American Jewish community, by our dear friends at the AJC. And it's just a horrific moment. It's an absolutely horrific moment in American Jewish history. So Mijal and I wanted to just connect with each other and talk about what this means to us, and how we're thinking about it. So I want to just ask you, Mijal, what's your quick reflection right now?
So, no, this one actually hit really close. I don't know about you, but I feel like I have so many friends who either, like they were connected to them either through AJC or through the embassy or through Moshe House. They were involved in that, or through the activities they used to have in Israel. Like Sarah was really involved in different peace efforts. Yaron was, did different academic studies. And just all morning, I've been reading just testimonials about who they were. And, Noam, they were the best of us,
Yeah.
the kind of young individuals driven by idealism, doing things that were unpopular. Sarah lost apparently so many friends for working at the embassy, ready to start a new life, get engaged and get married. And just like I just keep thinking, these are like the kind of young people that I would have loved to just know and have them be leaders, and kind of the people that give us hope for the future. And so many of the people we've lost, in the last 18 months, I just feel like Yaron and Sarah, like them, are the best of us. So part of me is just like sitting with a lot of grief and just sadness that these two magnificent individuals were killed so tragically.
It reminds me of, when you had certain peace activists in Israel, like Vivian Silver, who were
Yeah.
killed on the 7th of October. And they're promoting peace, they're promoting activism, they're promoting positive relationships, and they get gunned down for being associated with Israel, for being associated. And I say it like that because, first of all, Yaron is Christian, as far as I understand. And I just have like these immediate reflections, like, yes, grief, yes, sadness, pain. I don't want to say fear. I don't think I feel fear right now, but pain, sadness, probably anger. And I just had some reflections that I wanted to share with you about kind of how I don't want to react and how I do want to react. So do you mind if I share a few with
Go
you?
for it. Yeah.
So the first is, I just had a conversation with a guy named Charles Small from ISGAP, which is the Institute for the Study of Global Anti-Semitism and Policy. And I asked him what his take, like, where do you go right now in terms of blame? Like, what do you do? Because we all have instinct, like blame, right? We go into blame. That's what our brains do, probably to kind of like, I don't know, detach us from from the willingness to be in pain. Is we go to blame. And and if I'm going to enter the blame game, what I keep on coming to is, and this is what Charles said to me, if there's such deeply institutionalized anti-Semitism in the world and in academic spaces, and what he meant by this is, when you're actively calling Israel actively calling Israel evil, when you're actively calling Israel an apartheid regime, when you're actively calling Israel an occupier, when you're actively saying that Israel does not have the right to exist, and then you're basically saying that Israel is evil, there's not a far jump you have to make to then say, therefore, there's also a right to kill people who are associated with that.
Right.
It's just not. It's not a far jump.
It's incitement, clear incitement.
And so, like, I think that's like reflection number one. I'm struggling with, like, I don't want to be in blame space, and I'll explain what I mean, where I am following that instinct and where I'm not following that instinct. Where I'm not following that instinct is is saying, hey guys, please, please, please stop demonizing Israel to the extent that you're doing. It just please stop. It has violent consequences. But here's where I am going to follow that impulse of not entering the blame space. Blaming Jews. I'm seeing a lot of people in the social media space and even in the government space in Israel where people are blaming Yair Golan, Ehud Barak, Ehud
These are
Olmert.
left-wing Israeli politicians.
Left-wing Israeli politicians, and you know, Yair Golan said something that was certainly problematic as it relates to Israelis and as a hobby killing Palestinian kids. Not a good statement. I'm not like always sharing my opinions on things like. Okay, not a good statement by Yair Golan, who has been a hero in many ways for the Jewish people and for the state of Israel. 7th of October, he fought against Hamas valiantly, and he's done a lot of strong things in his career, other things not as strong, from my opinion. But that doesn't matter. I think it's dangerous when Jewish people start blaming Jewish people just immediately for someone that's not Jewish killing people associated with Israel. I want to ask the Jewish people to stop doing that. And I don't know how you feel about that part.
No, of course, no, I'm 100%. I think that it's almost like the weaponization of tragedy in a way that just makes things worse and that is not honest. And we don't need that right now. We actually need to double down on calling those who hate us our enemies. And, you know, Yair Golan, I hated the things he said, but he went on October 7th and single-handedly saved lives. So to use this moment right now to not name those who really hate us, to me just feels distasteful and damaging and dangerous. Noam, let me add something though. For me, this moment is not only about figuring out where do I put blame, where I not put blame, but I have been actually thinking so much from this morning about the fact that, as you mentioned, Yaron was a Christian. And last night, I actually taught a class to a group of women in Manhattan about Ruth and about covenantal responsibility and about what it means to, you know, come from different origins and then join together. And I've just been thinking that we often focus on like our enemies for good reason. And I want to even just say, I know we have a lot of listeners who are Christian. And right now, I just think it's important to acknowledge it was a Jewish tragedy. It was also a tragedy for all those of our Christian brothers and sisters who stand with us and who share similar values. And I have been just, I'm like, I've just been holding a lot about what it means to think. Immediately when I read about Yaron's life, I just had this like immediate reaction, just thinking, you know, he's part of my we, you know, he's part of my sense of those people that I feel I have a covenantal bond with.
I feel the same way. I feel the same way, by the way, with Muslims also. Like, I was just with my friend, Ahmed Fod al-Khatib, this past week in New York City. And I was saying to him, I said, you know, I've noticed that you've been subject to a lot of anti-Semitism, right? Yeah. He's Muslim. He's been subject to hatred of, like, that's what he's been subject to as well. But this connection of, you know, making sure that the Jewish people have safety, safe haven, security, sovereignty, these sorts of things. There are many people, not just Jewish people across the world. There are millions upon millions upon millions of people who are in this together and also are searching for peace together, questing for peace, thirsting for peace. I want to just tell you one more thought that I had in reflecting on last night. And again, I just want to say to our friends at AJC, to Ted Deutsch, who's been on our podcast, who's been on Wondering Jews, to my very close friend and mentor, Laura Shaw Frank, who I work very closely with. It's so devastating that this happened at a venue that you're part of, when you have been playing such an important role in peace activism, and
the event was also, if I understood correctly, about you know, bringing food and aid into Gaza. Yeah,
it's heart wrenching. But here's the third reflection that I have, is this whole debate, and we talk about it often also. So like, is anti-Semitism anti-Zionism? Is anti-Zionism anti-Semitism? Is anti-Israel? And I think we just got to stop with that. Not in terms of like the label of question. It just doesn't matter. It's like a weird question at this point. Because I was thinking about it. Let's say you say, oh, no, I'm not anti-Jew. I'm not I'm not anti-Semitic. I'm not. Because first of all, it's impolite to be. But what I am is anti-Israel. When you just sit back and think about this for a second. If roughly 50% of world Jewry lives in Israel, are you basically saying, I'm not opposed to all of Jews. I'm opposed to 50% of Jews. What does that mean? And so what you're doing in effect by being anti-Israel is in effect as dangerous, as violent, as problematic as being quote unquote anti-Semitic. So if you want to like kind of clean yourself, sanitize yourself by saying I'm not anti-Semitic, I'm just anti-Israel, understand that there's no practical difference when 50% of world Jewry is Israeli. And it's just like a silly thing to try to figure out, are you anti-Semitic, are you not? It's a problem. So world, please help us stop this problem.
Yeah, and we should stop having kind of like intellectual conversations in theory that don't look at real life consequences.
Yeah, so, that's fair.
So just want to wish for us, Noam, that we learn. I know, like, I am trying to not only get caught up in kind of like the news cycle, but try to really sit with what I've learned about Yaron and Sarah, and to ask ourselves always what it means to honor the lives of those who have been taken from us, and to make sure that we carry their memories with us. So may their memories be a blessing,
Yep.
And God willing, may we have no more sorrow.
Amen. We'll continue talking, Mijal. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thanks, Noam.
Take care.